The 9 stages of masculine development, the 2 mountains that every man climbs in his life. The first mountain is the mountain of success. So this is everything that we're taught from boyhood. Go to school, get good grades, make the money, get the wife, the house, the kids, the cars, the toys, the vacations. And you get to the top of Success Mountain and you look around and you say, now what? There's no more climb. There's no more dopamine that we get when we reach for the next thing. We're kind of there. This is everything that society taught us about where we need to get to in order to be okay or to be happy. And we get to the top and we realize, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm confused and a little bit spun about it. Raise your hand if you can relate to that at all. Yeah. Okay, cool. The second mountain is the mountain of fulfillment, the mountain of meaning, purpose, and ultimately legacy. And the problem is most men aren't even aware that there's a second mountain. So they stay stuck on the first mountain and they never actually reach the full potential of their life. So I'm going to lay out these 9 stages as I've been taking notes through hundreds of interviews. And you can see I started mapping this out after a while. I started seeing this pattern. I want to share with you some of the insights. So let's talk about the beginning. This is the climb. This is just getting going up the first mountain, your raw potential. This is the phase of your life where you choose a path and then you start grinding for 10 to 12 years. And what you need is a mentor, a coach, and a community. As you reach the top of Success Mountain, you've got a very clear goal. You've got focus, you've got drive, you're getting that dopamine on a regular basis. You love what you do every day because you're in the right game to win because you've made sure of that. You chose the right path, or you might have switched paths a few times along the way, but you got the right game to win. And so you're getting that serotonin. There's a lot of pressure, intensity. So you get adrenaline. This is where workaholism and stress can really start to flare up, but you've got a goal and you're going to go like hell. And what you need is what we call 80-20-20 focus. So we know that 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. But what if you took 20% of that 20% and you saw that 64% of your results came from just 4% of your efforts? And not only that, but 51% of your results came from 1% of your efforts. You need that kind of ultra focus in order to push this thing all the way to the summit. And then what happens? You get to the top and you have what Harvard Business Review calls the crisis at the summit. This is a known thing. You're at the zenith, you're at the top of your industry. And what happens? You run out of roadmap and you find yourself saying, is this all there is? There's got to be more. So what do you need? You need to begin your next hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces, says, I think a good life is one hero's journey after another. You haven't arrived at the end point. You've actually arrived at the beginning of the next journey. But most men don't know that because we're out of roadmap. We don't see that ahead of us. And there's very few people that make it to the top of Success Mountain, let alone make smart choices about what to do next. So there's 3 risks at the summit of Success Mountain. Number 1 is you get stuck on the golden hamster wheel and you just, I'm making good money. I don't know what else to do. So they just keep spinning away. Number 2, maybe you exit or your business runs without you and you end up golfing your way to the grave, surfing your way to the grave. I've interviewed a lot of guys that go on to get their pilot's license, and it's just amazing when they get up above the clouds and, landing the plane, there's that certain amount of risk and landing it. I get some flow. You get some dopamine from surfing and golfing, but it's not making a positive impact in the world. You're not leaving a legacy. So you're not fulfilling your potential. It's just not your second mountain. Or you end up hang gliding into a hurricane, as we lovingly call it around here, creating a midlife catastrophe. And we've all seen that. We know what that looks like. So what do you need here? You need guidance, you need allies, and you need new tools. Now we're coming down the back side of the first mountain. So those are the first 3 of the 9. The next 3 are the place that a lot of men maybe go through, but unwillingly, kind of like a cat in a bathtub. This dissolution phase is where your compass is spinning. Life is pushing you forward. It's kind of like puberty. Like you wouldn't choose it. It's kind of awkward. It's uncomfortable. You don't really know what's happening or why, but life moves you into this phase and there's this dissolution, like a caterpillar in a chrysalis. And you end up languishing. A lot of men feel lost, bored, empty, confused, and ultimately guilty about it. Like, why isn't this enough? I have everything. My life is amazing. Why don't I feel fulfilled? What's wrong with me? And there's very few men that can have this conversation. Their therapist isn't making more than $70,000, $80,000 a year. They can't relate to their experience. They say that they're depressed. Their therapist laughs. Like, how could you be depressed? So they feel even more alone and isolated. One guy described it as a little pathetic. He used the example of Tom Brady just living off his money. He's not really going for anything anymore. So what do you need? You need acceptance that this is happening and to let go and allow it to happen and stop trying to stay on the top of Success Mountain. Life is moving you forward. In the middle of the dark forest, there's a cave. And in this cave, there's a dragon. Most men will do anything to avoid going into that cave and facing that dragon. So they end up depressed, repressed, shut down. They have no motivation. They're not reaching for anything, and they're not going in to face the dragon until they reach this point of maximal dissolution. This is the caterpillar in the cocoon. There's no more breakdown that can happen. And they literally feel they have no clue which way is up. They describe it as a futile struggle. So what do they need? They need to face the dragon. They need to actually turn and face the thing that they've been avoiding. And then what happens? They start to reach resolution. When the man is ready, his second mountain appears. It emerges from the fog. And this is all about authenticity. There is no cookie cutter path. That's why you run out of roadmap. The first mountain is, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a CEO. Second mountain, there is no path to it because it's your mountain. And only you can find the way to it. There's this feeling of getting lost and then emerging from the fog. And there's the second mountain. You're clear on your purpose. You found your true heart's desire. And what do you need? You need to practice continuing to surrender and trusting life that this is happening for you. There are 3 risks in what I call false resolution. One is climbing another first mountain. And a lot of men will just start another business because that's what they know. But then they end up bored again in 3 years. Or they end up climbing someone else's second mountain. Well, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer so I could get into politics. And now my law firm is running without me. And I guess I'm going to get into politics. Or just giving money to charity, golfing your way to the grave. Well, I'm doing good things. I'm leaving a legacy. But that's somebody else's second mountain. They're building that charity. What about your heart's desire? The third risk is getting lost in the dark forest between the mountains, never finding your way out of it. So what do you need here is what we call the authenticity check. Is this really what's right for me right now? Is this really what life is calling me to? If it's not, keep going. Now we're in the 3 final stages of the 9 stages. Fulfillment is when you start to climb that second mountain. You wake up with your blood singing, excited to get after it. You're in a process of continual reinvention versus an end goal. The first mountain was all about the end goal, and you get there and you realize, okay, I've got the goal, but this isn't really fulfilling. There is no end goal now. The mountain of fulfillment is just, it's a mountain of fulfillment. I just feel fulfilled doing what I'm doing every day because it's intrinsically rewarding, because it's aligned with who I am. It's truly authentic. And this is all about impact. My work is meaningful to me and others. The need is to serve the world from your gifts and your talents. When you start to reach the summit of the second mountain, playing a bigger game than you ever dreamed of, feeling the deep significance and continually asking yourself the question, for the sake of what? Why am I doing this? Well, if I bought that, or went there, donated this, made this phone call, you're continually in service of something greater, and you're asking yourself, for the sake of what? The need here is to ensure that your impact lives on beyond you, because ultimately the backside of that second mountain is the same for all of us. It's decline and death. When I came out of 3 years in the desert, what I call my midlife chrysalis, my deepest understanding was death is my life coach. Asking for the sake of what is all against the backstop of, because I'm going to die. I could die tomorrow. I could die in 40 years. I could live another 100 the way that medical advances are going. But in the end, I will die. And if I want to leave it all on the field, that's not something I do in the last inning. That's something I've got to start to do now so that when I'm looking back from my deathbed, I'm satisfied with my journey. And we call that the deathbed test. So these are the 9 stages. These are the 9 stages of masculine development. And ultimately, the goal is to die complete, leaving it all on the field, feeling satisfied with your life.